جميع خلقه كما يحبه ويرضاه. اللهم صل على محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وسلم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ربنا يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاه. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. First of all, give our praise and our thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the favors and bounties Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed on us. We send salat and salam on the last and final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As we continue with the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I've already started the 7th year. We're in the 7th year after Hijrah. And as we mentioned in the beginning, we had the letters going out to the different kings. And then the Battle of Khaybar. In the Battle of Khaybar, the Prophet ﷺ, he took down every single fort belonging to the Jews, one after the other. After they went in their fort and sought refuge, the Prophet ﷺ laid siege to each fort one at a time, and they were victorious. There was even the fort of Fidak. The Jews of Fidak, they sent a message and said to the Prophet ﷺ, we want an agreement. We don't want you to lay any siege on us. We are ready to go away. Just grant us the same truce you had granted the others. The Prophet ﷺ, after conquering the Khaybar and all the forts, he did not return to Medina immediately. He stayed a few days in Khaybar. And in those few days, there was a lady by the name of Zainab bint Harisa. She was the wife of Salam bin Mushkim. She was a Jew, and she sent a gift to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As we mentioned before, as long as somebody sent a gift, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would always accept it. And she cooked some food, and what was included was a grilled goat was included, and she puts poison in it. And she sent it for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he took the meal with some of his companions sitting there. And as they were about to eat, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam take the first morsel. And as soon as he started to chew it, he realized that it is poisoned. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam pulled back his hands and he told the companions to stop. Stop eating, this meat is poisoned. And one of the companions, his name was Bishr bin Ma'rur, he had already taken a few bites already before the stop came. And it so happened that he died from that, from eating the animal. The Prophet ﷺ sent for the lady who prepared the food, which was Zainab bint Haritha. She came in front of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ said to her that, I know that you have poisoned the goat that you sent for me. And she said, yes, she confessed, yes, I poisoned it. And the Prophet ﷺ asked her, what is the reason? Why did you do something like that? She said, I wanted to test you. If you are really a prophet and a messenger from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah would have revealed to you that this is poison, and you wouldn't have died from it. But if you are not a prophet of Allah, and you are a liar, claiming to be a prophet, then I'm saving the people from you, because you're going to die if you're not a prophet. So the people are going to be saved from a liar. But if you're a prophet, then Allah is going to protect you. The Prophet ﷺ did not take revenge on her. Whatever people used to do to him personally, he never used to take any revenge at all from them. But Bishr bin Ma'rur, the companion who ate a few morsels and died, the Prophet ﷺ gave Zainab to his family members to deal whatever they want to do with her. And they executed her because of their family being killed by her poisoned grilled goat. Another incident, the Prophet ﷺ, he did not die, as we know, from this eating of the grilled goat. But he did what we call hijama. Hijama is sucking out blood using cups. The Prophet ﷺ did that as a means of removing the poison, but it still affected him. That even when he was on his deathbed, he would say to Aisha radiallahu anha, I continue to feel the pain of the food I ate at Khaybar. from that poison grilled goat. I still feel the pain of that poison up to today. This was just before he passed away. Another incident that took place was a man by the name of Hajjaj bin Ilat as-Salami. He was a Muslim. His wife was an unbeliever, still living in Makkah. And all his wealth had remained in Makkah. And he just had migrated from Makkah and he came to Medina, but he knew all his wealth is over there with his wife. And he can't just go and say, you know what, I want my wealth. They are not going to give it to him. So he came to the Prophet ﷺ on the day of Khaybar, and he said to the Prophet ﷺ, all my wealth is in Makkah. I don't want to ask anybody for anything, but I have my own wealth over there in Makkah, and I want to bring it with me. But I want to ask you permission to do something. The Prophet ﷺ asked him, what do you want permission for? He says, I want to say something bad about you in front of the Makkans. Give you permission to lie, as you can see, to say something bad about you in front of them, and they're going to feel that I'm on their side and they're going to give me back my wealth. The Prophet ﷺ, understanding his situation, the Prophet ﷺ granted him permission, and he went. When he reached Makkah, he went straight to his wife, and he said to his wife, bring all my wealth for me. Hurry up, bring my wealth. The Jews have just overtaken the Muslims in the Battle of Khaybar, and they have got a lot of spoils from the Muslims, and I want to buy some of the spoils. So he changed it around. Instead of the Muslims winning the Jews, he said the Jews were winning the believers, and the Jews got so much of wealth from the believers, so much of spoils of war. I want some money now to buy some of that. So the wife, she was an unbeliever. She was happy to hear that a Muslim have lost to the Jews. So his wife hurried and she brought all the wealth and gave it to him. But as he expected, the news started to spread. The whole Makkah heard about this now. And all the believers who were in Makkah were very sad because they didn't really know exactly what happened in Medina. But this news that hit them, they started to feel, how could Muhammad ﷺ be defeated? They are Muslims. And the unbelievers, they were happy and they were rejoicing. Abbas, with an uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, he was very sad after he heard this news. He sent a slave to Hajjaj bin Ilat. He sent him and he sent his slave with a message to ask Hajjaj bin Ilat, why did he bring such a bad news to Makkah? If he has some news like that, he should have kept it in Medina. He shouldn't have bring it to Makkah, because the other Muslims, they are feeling bad now. They are not there to see, they are not there to help. They are here and they are hearing of what a tragedy that happened to the Muslims. When the slave came and informed Hajjaj, he said to the slave, say to Abbas, inform Abbas radiallahu anhu that I want to speak to him in private. So the slave went back, and as soon as he told this to Abbas radiallahu anhu, Abbas radiallahu anhu realized that there's some secret involved here. Has to be some kind of secrets, and he knew that definitely there's some goodness in it. So he kissed his slave on his forehead out of happiness, and then he went to reach Hajjaj, and then Hajjaj told him the truth. Told him that the Muslims won in Khaybar, and he asked the Prophet ﷺ permission to say this thing just so that he could get back his wealth, and then he's going to go back to Medina. But the Muslims, they are victorious, you have nothing to worry about. And he made Abbas and promise him that he shouldn't speak about it until he returned to Medina, because his wealth is going to get taken away back from him. So Abbas allowed 3 days to pass after he left Makkah so that he can reach in Medina. And then Abbas went to his wife. That is the wife of Hajjaj bin Ilat. And soon as he reached there, she started to give him condolences, express her regret for what happened to the Muslims. She's an unbeliever. Telling him, you know what, I don't know, I'm very sorry for what happened. And then he said to her, that is not the truth. You want to know the truth? And then he told her the truth. And then when he finished there, he went to the Quraysh. The Quraysh was happy to hear that they did not fight Muhammad ﷺ, but somebody else took care of the job for them, which is the Jews. And when he told that to him, as told that to the Quraysh as well, they were very sad to know that they were being fooled by just one man, thinking that he had spoken the truth. So this was another incident that took place. There was also something called musaqat and mukhabara, which is known as sharecropping, that was done for the first time in Islam, in Medina, in Mecca. This is the first time this had took place, which is known as sharecropping. As we mentioned, when the lands were taken away from the Jews, the condition was they have to leave their land and be exiled away from Medina. They are not going to be able to live here again. So some of them, while the Prophet ﷺ was still in Khaybar, they came to the Prophet ﷺ and they said to the Prophet ﷺ, we know these lands more than anybody else. We grew up on these lands. We know them good. We know the trees. We have been producing here for years upon years. So we ask you to allow us to stay to take care of the farms, take care of the date palms and all the trees. Let us deal with the farm, and at the end of the harvest, you're going to get the Muslims, we're going to give the Muslims half of the produce, and we're going to only keep half of the produce. So they are not the owners of the land, but they are proposing that we're going to work the land for you, and you're going to get half of the profit because you're the owner of the land, and we're going to take half of the profit because we are the one doing the work. The Prophet ﷺ, when he heard this, he says, "Nukirrukum ala dhalika ma shi'na." You can stay how long you want. You can stay how long you want. But he makes sure he informed them that you are not the owners of these lands. You are allowed to work on the land with this agreement we have now, but as long as we find that you're doing mischief, you're going to be expelled at any time. So they knew now that this is something that they have to ensure that they are not going to cause any mischief whilst in Khaybar. When it was close to the time for harvest, the Prophet ﷺ would send Abdullah bin Rawaha radiallahu anhu, and he will go and he will see all the crops that they have harvested, and he will divide it in two. And when he put it in two, divide it in two, he will say to the Jews, you choose whichever one you want. He will not just pick one side for the Muslim first, tell the Jews first, because they were working it. Choose whichever side you want. And the Jews were very happy to know that how just and how fair the Muslims were. To know that even though they are Muslims, they are not being advantageous on us. Abdullah bin Rawaha said, Ya ma'ashar al-Yahud, or assembly of Jews, Antum abghadul khalqa ilayya. You're the most hated creation of Allah to me. This is what Abdullah bin Rawaha said, you're the most hated people to me. He says, لِأَنَّ قَتَلْتُمْ أَنْبِيَاءَ Allah, because you killed so much of your prophets. وَكَذَّبْتُمْ عَلَى اللَّهِ, and you are lying, making a lot of lies against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he says, وَلَيْسَ يَحْمِلُنِي بُغْضِي إِيَّاكُمْ أَنْ أُحِيفَ عَلَيْكُمْ. But he says, my hatred will not allow me to be unjust to you. Not because I hate you means I'm going to be unfair or unjust to you. I still have that responsibility to be just and fair. So even though you're hated to me, I'm going to still treat you with fairness and with justice. The Prophet ﷺ allowed these Jews to work there because one, as they knew the land a lot, and it is not as if they're going to do a less produce, because how much they produce of the land, that is part of their share. If they produce less, that means when it's split in half, they're going to get less. So with that, they're going to make sure that they produce the same amount. As well as, whilst the Jews are taking care of the land and the Muslims are still getting to benefit from it, the Muslims don't have to worry to take time off to go and deal with the land. So the Muslims now, they are able to use their time to do more important things like dawah and teaching and those kind of things, whilst the Jews just doing the work for the land, and the Muslims still getting benefits, still getting half of the profit from it. So this is why the Prophet ﷺ allowed them. From all the battles before, the spoils that the Prophet ﷺ got from Khaybar was the most. This is the first time he got so much of spoils of war. The type of spoils he got were not of gold and silver, but mostly they had, for example, one of the spoil were that of food items. So one of the fort they went in, they had all their provisions stocked up, one of the fort. And when they entered that, they saw all the greens and all the food items. So the Prophet ﷺ, he told the companions, just eat. Just eat. Cook and eat and enjoy yourself. This is not going to be divided like how we divide spoils of war. We're just going to cook and then everybody's just going to take whatever you want from the food items and you could carry it back to Medina, whichever amount you wanted to carry. Other things that were part of the spoils in this battle were clothing, furniture, camels, cows, and sheep. These were the other things. The Prophet ﷺ, he took the 1/5 as mentioned in the Quran, and he divided how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to divide the 1/5 amongst the poor and the relatives and the different people that he will normally give. And then 4/5, as the Quran stipulates, should go to the army. So he gave 1/5 to how he wanted to distribute it, and 4/5 went straight to the army. This is for the clothing, furniture, camels, cows, and sheep. They had slaves. The slaves were distributed similarly, like this. And the Prophet ﷺ divided it into 36 sections. 36 sections of the land. And in each section, there were 100 shares. So each section of the 36 were 100 shares. So which made it 3,600 shares in lands. And the Prophet ﷺ now divided that in half, which would have been 1,800 by 1,800. 1,800 one half and 1,800 the other half of shares. The first half was 1,800 that was distributed amongst the army as how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to distribute it. The second half, which is the other 1,800 shares, were left there for emergency for the Muslims in case of anything. The set that was left until later consists of Khaybar, Wati, and Salalim. These were the pieces of land that were remaining back in case of any emergency. The Prophet ﷺ got hold of a lot of copies of the Torah because these were Jews. A lot of them had Torahs with them. And this came as a part of the spoils of war as well. And when the Prophet ﷺ got these Torah, the Jews asked the Prophet ﷺ to give them back to them. Now the Prophet ﷺ could have been spiteful. He could have just made some burn all the Torah. We are in control now. But the Prophet ﷺ showed respect to their religion, showed respect to their book as well. And the Prophet ﷺ returned the Torahs to them. So all of them, they got back their scriptures, they got back their Torah, and he allowed them to continue to read it. He did not say, you know what, I'm going to destroy everything. He gave it back to them. In the beginning of Islam, we mentioned that there were many people who migrated to Abyssinia. When things were hard and rough and persecution were in Mecca, there were two main migrations to Abyssinia. And when the Prophet ﷺ migrated from Makkah to Medina, a lot of those who migrated to Abyssinia returned. But there are still some of them who remained in Abyssinia. So just before the Battle of Khaybar, the Prophet ﷺ, he sent a letter to the Najashi, requested him to send back everybody. Return the remaining Muslims there, return them back to Medina. And the Najashi, he organized 2 ships and he sent back all the remaining companions who were still there in Abyssinia. The same day Khaybar was conquered, the same day the migrants returned to Medina, the same day they arrived in Medina. When the Prophet ﷺ saw Ja'far bin Abi Talib, he returned on that day, the day of Khaybar. He went and he kissed him on his forehead and embraced him, and he said to him, I don't know which one I should be more happy about, the conquest of Khaybar or the return of Ja'far bin Abi Talib. He was so happy to see them return into Medina because they were in Abyssinia for 10 years. 10 years they were in Abyssinia, and now they have returned back. But some of the companions now, they were feeling that these migrants from Abyssinia, they are lesser of a muhajir than those who migrate from Makkah to Medina. So you had two types of migration, those from Abyssinia and those from Makkah. The migration from Makkah to Medina, those who went on that migration is feeling, oh, we are better. These people now come to Medina, they are lesser than us in rank. There was one incident when Asma bin Umais, anha, she was one of them who came back from Abyssinia via Khaybar. And she went to Hafsa, who was anha, who was the daughter of Umar anhu. She went by her, and then when Umar came, Umar anhu asked, who is that? And Hafsa said, this is Asma bin Umais. And then he said, is she the one who came from Abyssinia? Hafsa said, yes, this is the same one who had returned from Abyssinia. And then Umar anhu, he says, we are better than them. Just like that in front of our face, we are better than them. Because we made a hijrah before them. We migrated to Medina before they were able to migrate to Medina. She said, I swear by Allah, I'm not going to eat or drink anything until I go to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and ask him who is better. And she left and she went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and informed him what the people are saying. And what Umar anhu just said, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, no, you are better. Says the migrants from Abyssinia, they are better. Because those from Makkah who migrated to Medina, they only made one hijrah. Whilst those who came from Abyssinia, they had to migrate twice. They migrate from Makkah to Abyssinia. Now to stay in Abyssinia for 10 years, you have already become settled. And then you have to migrate back now from Abyssinia to Medina. There's twice migration. So she said she was very happy, and then she went to all those who migrated from Abyssinia now to Medina to inform them. The Prophet ﷺ told the Muhajirs to return all the orchard that were loaned to them by the Ansars. When they had migrated, when the Muhajir had migrated, they didn't have nothing. So the Ansar went and they give them a few trees, a portion of land. They give it to them so that they could earn for themselves. Now, with all the spoils of war, the Prophet ﷺ told the Muhajir, you have your own thing now. It's time for you to give back the Ansar what they had given you before. So all Ansar got back all the lands that they had given to the Muhajir before, and whatever was taken from Khaybar now was given to the Muhajir. So the Muhajir got pieces of land which they could use for their own self. There was one lady by the name of Sulaim. She had given a few trees to the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ had, even though she had given it to him, he had given it away to somebody else. He had given it to Ayman. Ayman was his wet nurse. So when this command came that every Muhajir must give back to the Ansar, she came to the Prophet ﷺ because she gave trees to him. So she said to the Prophet ﷺ, I need back the few trees I had given to you. The Prophet ﷺ says, I don't have it again. I already gave it away. She said, no, but the command you just gave is that everybody needs to get back whatever they had given, and I had given, so I need to get back my trees as well. So the Prophet ﷺ, he went to Ayman, and he told her, you know what, give back it to Sulaim, and I'm going to replace others for you. She said, no, I'm not giving it up. You had already given me that, and I'm keeping that. The Prophet ﷺ said, you know what, I'm going to give you a little more than what you have now, so that Sulaim will get back hers. She says, no, I'm not giving it up. Prophet ﷺ continued to talk to her until she agreed. She only agreed after the Prophet ﷺ said, I'm going to give you 10 trees. Just give up those few, and I'm going to give you 10 trees, and then she allowed. But the Prophet ﷺ was not harsh with her because she was one of his wet nurse. So because of that, he was very soft and very lenient to Ayman. There were some prohibitions, as we mentioned, in this battle of Khaybar. One was the prohibition of eating domesticated donkeys. Before they were eating that, and we mentioned that they were cooking that, and the Prophet ﷺ said, throw that away, it is impure. So on that day, until today, to eat donkeys is haram, domesticated donkeys. Also to sell the spoils of war before it is distributed. For those who are in battle, for them to just pick up something and sell it before the Prophet or the Amir actually divides it, was totally haram. That was haram in the Battle of Khaybar. Also, another prohibition was to have sexual relationship with a pregnant slave. Remember, there were captives now, and the captives were given to different Muslims. Now, if you get a female slave who is pregnant, you are not allowed to have sexual relationship with her until she delivers a child. As the Prophet ﷺ, he says, don't water somebody else's seed. This is the wording of the hadith, so you're not allowed to do that. This is another prohibition in the Battle of Khaybar. Also, when you get a new slave, it is haram for you to, as soon as you get a slave, to have sexual relationship with her as well. You need to allow one period to go by, one menstrual cycle, to make sure that she's not pregnant. Because you can't just go and say, hey, this is my slave now, I could do this, and then afterwards you realize she's pregnant and you don't know whose child she's pregnant with. So this was a command given in Khaybar, that you ensure that the menstrual cycle pass, and only then you can have sexual relation. Certain laws pertaining to riba was prohibited in this battle as well. Eating garlic, raw garlic before salat. That prohibition was in this battle as well, the Battle of Khaybar. Right? Eating raw garlic, not cooked garlic. So you can, if you cook the garlic, no problem in eating it. But to eat actual raw garlic, this is one of the traits of the Arabs. They used to have, when they have their food, they'll take some salt and put it to the side, a spoonful of salt, as well as a few peeled garlic there. So while they're eating, they'll just take the raw garlic and bite it and eat it and take some salt. Right? This is how they normally used to eat. Right? We wouldn't try that because that wouldn't taste that good, but that to them was very, very delicious. But then it is leave a smell in your mouth to eat a raw garlic like that. And when you come for salat, other people, you belch and you talk to people and that scent is coming out of your mouth. That prohibition was in this battle as well. The allowance to eat horse meat was made halal in the Battle of Khaybar. It says allowed, up to today, is allowed to eat horse meat, is allowed to eat a horse. Right? The only restriction that the scholars have given is that it is disliked. Even though it's halal, disliked because it is used for jihad purposes. And if you eat out all, you won't have any to write for jihad. But besides that, the actual meat itself, it is halal for you to eat. So for example, if you have a horse and it can't really walk and so again, but it's still alive, it is allowed for you to kill and eat. It is allowed to eat that. Also, as we mentioned, the last is the legislation, the laws of sharecropping. This was another law that was given in Khaybar when the Prophet allowed the Jews. So these are just a few prohibitions and a few laws that were given in Khaybar. There are a few more that inshallah we're going to do next week. One of them will be temporary marriage, muta', which up to today we have the Shia Muslims still practice it. Still in our time, they are still practicing that, even though it was prohibited in the Battle of Khaybar. We're going to deal with that in our next session, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta. Nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.